أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu and welcome to our class today. I hope and pray that you are all doing very well and keeping safe. Polite reminder to please ensure that you are following class rules at all times. That means that you are logged in with the correct ID. Only IDs that are logged in correctly will be allowed on the mic today and allowed to participate. So please make sure that you are logged in with the correct ID. Your heads should be covered as we are learning and reading from the Holy Quran. Please also be seated at your devices at all times and ready to unmute if your ID is called to the mic so that we don't waste any time and you don't miss your turn either. Okay, so the agenda for today's class is in your on your screens in front of you. We will be beginning shortly with our opening dua for today. We will then move on to look at the rule in focus for today's class, which is on assimilation, Ra and Lam after At-Tanween. Okay, and then we will be starting a new surah today, which is chapter 101 of the Holy Quran. And we will be reading from that and trying to finish that surah, inshallah, today. We will also be having a look at the letters of the day. We'll have 2 letters today, and we'll be having a look at what those letters are and how to correctly pronounce them. We will then move back to our practice text before ending the class with the normal procedure of assigning homework and reading our dua. So if we could start with dua, if you could have our first student on the mic.
G2215.
Jazakumullah. G2215. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you today?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. Okay, so you've been chosen to read the dua. So if you could please repeat after me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
اللهم إني
اللهم إني
أسألك
أسألك
علما نافعا.
علما نافعا.
Okay, so let's try that one more time. علما نافعا.
علما نافعا.
Yeah, this is fa with the kasra, so fi'a.
فئا.
Excellent. One more time, all together now. Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a.
Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a.
Excellent. Well done. That was really good. Just remember over here, the kaf simply has a fatha, so we're not going to stretch that for more than 1 second, okay? It's a very short stroke, so we have to be mindful of our timing. But well done. Excellent. Really nice to read. And could you read the translation for me now?
O Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge. Ibn Majah, HN 925.
Well done. Okay, this is Ibn Majah, and this is Hadith. H stands for Hadith. Hadith number 925. Excellent. Well done. Jazakumullah for your participation. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we are going to move on to have a look at our rule for the day. Okay. So let me just bring that up for you now. Okay, so in today's class, we are going to be looking at a rule that you have been introduced to in Monday's class. Okay, so if you all take your minds back to Monday's class, and I hope you're all there on Monday's class. If not, I hope you've looked on YouTube and had a look at the lesson that was taught to you on Monday. So in today's class, we will be carrying on from that, and the rule is very much similar to what you learned on Monday. Okay, so the rule that you learned was about rules of noon sakin and tanween. Okay, so the rule is that when a noon sakin or tanween is observed, a nasal sound is made. Okay, what I'm going to tell you now is something that you already know. Okay, so it's a good revision. And then we're moving on to the new rule that we're learning. Okay, so when a noon sakin or tanween is observed, when you look at a noon sakin or tanween, a nasal sound is made. There are rules that tell you what that nasal sound is. The next letter after a noon sakin or tanween decides the nasal sound. Okay, so again, just to jog your memories of those that might be a bit confused, noon sakin is a noon with a sukoon on it, and tanween is when you have the double stroke of either fatha, kasra, or dhamma. That's called a tanween. Okay, so the next letter after noon sakin or tanween decides the nasal sound that we have to make. So you must always look at the next letter. Okay, whenever you see noon sakin or tanween, you have to look at the next letter. That is very, very the key thing that we're trying to stress over here. Okay, so like I said, this is a continuation from the rule that you learned on Monday, and you learned a new word on Monday, which was assimilation. Okay, assimilation is the English term, and in Arabic it's called idgham. Okay, so that's what you hopefully you remember those terms from Monday. A simpler word for assimilation is merging. Okay, assimilation means to merge or merging. Assimilation rules tell us how to merge sounds of certain letters after noon sakin or tanween. Okay, now these are the letters of assimilation. There are 6 letters of assimilation: ya, ra, mim, lam, waw, and noon. Okay, and an easy way to remember those 6 letters is by remembering the word yarmulun. Okay, yarmulun, because that word has all the letters of assimilation in it. Okay, that's what it is. So if you remember that word, yarmulun, then it can be easy for you to remember these 6 letters. If you see any of these 6 letters after noon sakin or tanween, there will be some sort of nasal sound. So in today's class, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the letter ra, and we're going to look at the letter lam. So I know there's 6 letters of assimilation, but we're going to look at 2 of them today. So the letter ra and the letter lam is what we're going to be focused on today, just like you did on Monday as well. Okay, so these are the rules that I'd like you to pay close attention to in today's class. If you see tanween followed by ra mushaddad, okay, ra mushaddad is when the letter ra has a shadda on it. Okay, if you see tanween followed by ra mushaddad, there is no nasal sound. So the way to pronounce it would be that you would take away one of the tanween strokes and you would read it as a single stroke and join that onto the ra mushaddad. Okay, so usually with tanween there are 2 strokes. Tanween means 2 strokes, but whenever you see a ra mushaddad that comes after tanween, then one of those strokes of tanween is taken out and you would read it as a single stroke, and then the ra mushaddad would be joined on afterwards. Okay, so you will see this later on. I'll show you a few examples from the Holy Quran, and that should make it easier to picture that in your head. But that's the rule. Okay, now for la mushaddad is the same thing. If you see tanween followed by lam mushaddad this time, there is again no nasal sound. And again, you would take away one of the tanween strokes and you would read it as a single stroke rather than a double stroke of tanween. Okay, so that's the rule. If you see tanween followed by either ra mushaddad or lam mushaddad, there is no nasal sound, and in your recitation, you would take away one of the tanween strokes and you would read it as a single stroke. Like I said, we're going to now have a look at a few examples from the Holy Quran to show you how that rule applies in our recitation. So let's first have a look at an example of tanween followed by ra mushaddad. Now this is how the example is written in the Holy Quran. Okay, have a close look. But this is actually how it's read. Okay, so in the Holy Quran, you won't find it looking like this. You will find it like this, but this is how actually you would read it. Okay, so you can see circled over there, this is where the ra mushaddad appears after tanween. So on top of this letter fa, you can see this sign over here, this is dammatain. Okay, so it might look a bit slightly different to what you're used to perhaps, but this is showing a double stroke of damma, tanween. Okay, so we have tanween on the fa followed by a ra mushaddad. So the rule that we've just learned about applies over here. So in our recitation, what we have to do is we have to take away one of the tanween. So as you can see, the double stroke of tanween has now changed to a single stroke of a dhamma, and then the ra mushaddad stays as it is. So the way to, apologies, I think my sound went there. So over here, you can see that the double stroke of tanween has disappeared, and you're only left with a single stroke of dhamma. Okay, so that dhamma then joins on to the ra mushaddad. Okay, so the correct way to pronounce this would be as follows: Ra'ufur Rahim. Ra'ufur Rahim. Okay, so the normal nasal sound that you usually make when there is tanween is taken out. Okay, so there's no nasal sound, and you would only pronounce one stroke of the tanween. Okay, another example from the Holy Quran, you can see over here, we have another example, and this is how it's actually read. So you can see over here that we have a tanween underneath the ba. Okay, we have a tanween kasratain followed by a ra mushaddad. But in recitation, that tanween is now turned into only a single stroke of kasra. Okay, and the ra mushaddad stays as it is, meaning that nasal sound is removed from our recitation. So the correct way to read this would be Rabbir Rahim. Rabbir Rahim. Okay, now let's have a look at tanween followed by lam mushaddad. As it's written in the Holy Quran, this is an example of where you have tanween followed by lam mushaddad, but this is actually how it's read in recitation. So as you can see over here, we have a tanween on top of the ra, yeah, double stroke of fatha, and that is followed by a lam mushaddad. Okay, now in recitation, as you can see, that fathatain on the ra is now turned into a single stroke of fatha, and then that is joined onto the lam mushaddad afterwards. So that nasal sound is removed, and you would not have a nasal sound in this scenario. Okay, so the correct way to read this would be musfarallazallu. Musfarallazallu. Okay, ralla, that's the bit that we're trying to focusing on at the moment. Okay, another example from the Holy Quran, as you can see over here, again we have an example of where there's tanween followed by a lam mushaddad. Okay, but this is how it's actually read in recitation. So we have tanween underneath the ra, okay, and followed by a lam mushaddad, but in recitation that tanween turns into a single stroke of kasra and followed by lam mushaddad as it is. So that nasal sound is removed. So we would read this as rillu. Okay, rillu. So that the nasal sound should not be pronounced. So that is the rule. Okay, whenever you see a tanween followed by lam mushaddad or a ra mushaddad, then there is no nasal sound and only a single stroke of the tanween will be pronounced. Okay, that is the rule. So in today's class, like I said, we will be covering a new surah, and in that surah there is one example of the rule that we're covering today, and once we get to it, we will inshallah, I will point that out to you. Okay, so let me just go back to our practice text. So like I said, in today's class, we will be starting a new surah, Surah Al-Qariyah. Okay, and this surah is chapter 101 of the Holy Quran. It has a total of 12 verses, and it was revealed to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the city of Makkah. So this is the surah in front of you, and we will have some students on the mic now, and the same format of recitation will apply as always. We will have a student on the mic. I will go through the verse and I would like you to follow along with me. So if you could please have our first student on the mic.
G2202.
Jazakumullah. G2202. Assalamu alaikum. G2202. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, I'll choose another student. G2181.
Jazakumullah. G2181. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you today?
Good.
Alhamdulillah, that's good to hear. So what we're going to do is we're going to start reading the surah, okay? So we will start with Dawood and Tasmiyah. So repeat after me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Yep, can you repeat after me? Can you say that for me? G2181, are you still on the mic? Assalamu alaikum. Are they still unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, I think we lost you there for a bit. Could you read Dawood and Tasmiyah for me, please?
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Well done, excellent. Okay, so we're going to start having a look at this second verse of this surah, okay? So in this verse, we can see that we have an alif mad after the qaf, okay? Alif mad because it's a blank alif and the letter before has a fatha on it. So what does that mean? How long do I have to stretch my sound out over here?
2 seconds.
Excellent, 2 seconds. After that, we have a short stroke underneath the ra, kasra, so we have to pronounce it for 1 second. Okay, and at the end of this verse, we're going to use the rules of pause, and I want you to just follow along with me as I read that. Okay, so we're going to say Al-Qari'ah.
Al-Qari'ah.
Excellent, well done. So for everybody else who perhaps didn't hear it, at the end over here, we're making a h sound. Okay, so like a ha sakin. So we're just saying at the end, we're saying ah. Yeah. Al-Qari'ah.
Al-Qari'ah.
Excellent. Well done. Really good pronunciation. Let's carry on. Now in the next verse, how it starts is that you have over here a lam sakin. And whenever you have a sakin letter, you have to join it to the most recent mutaharrik letter. Can you tell me which is the most recent mutaharrik letter? Before this lam. So what will I join this lam to?
You need to join the meme to the lam.
Excellent. Well done. So that's what I meant when I said what's the most recent mutaharrik letter, because whenever you see a sakin letter, you have to join it to the most recent mutaharrik letter, and meme in this case is the most recent mutaharrik letter. So we have to join the meme to the lam, and we have to ignore these two alifs over here. Okay, in recitation. Next we have alif mad over here. So again, like you said, alif mad, we have to stretch for 2 seconds. We have kasra, so 1 second over here. Again, we will end the sound over here of this verse the same way we did over here with the h sound at the end. Okay, so we're going to say mal qariyah.
Mal Qariyah.
Excellent. Well done. Really nicely read. Let's carry on to the next verse now. Over here, we have single stroke, a short stroke, so fatha, 1 second timing. Over here, we have an alif mad. And on top of the alif mad, we also have this line over here, which means that we have to stretch our sound out for at least 3 seconds, okay? So we have to stretch really long over here. Then over here, we have a vertical fatha. How long do I stretch that for?
1 second.
Okay, have a think again. This is a vertical fatha.
2 seconds.
Yes, well done. So a simple fatha, for example, this waw has a fatha, is 1 second, and a vertical fatha, like in this case, is 2 seconds. Okay, excellent. Now over here, this is a fatha, so 1 second. Rule applies over here. Again, over here we have lam sakin. It will join onto the most recent mutaharrik letter, which is this meme over here. Okay, so these two letters in between, they will be ignored in recitation or in pronunciation. Okay, after that, we also have another alif mad. So we will again elongate for 2 seconds. We have a kasra over here, so 1 second rule. And again, our sound at the end will be the same like we made in the previous 2 verses. Okay, so please follow along with me. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِئَةُ
وما أدراك ما القارية.
Excellent. Well done, mashallah. Really impressed with the way you're reading. And also, one thing I forgot to mention is the rule of qalqala that we have to apply over here. So as you can see, we have a dal sakin. Whenever we have a dal sakin, we have to apply the rule of qalqala and produce a bouncing sound when we read this. So rather than saying ad, we're going to say ad.
أد
Excellent. Adraka.
أدراك.
Excellent. Well done. Perfect. So I forgot to mention that there before we're reading. So remember the rule of qalqala as you're reading as well. So as we're reading, we have to be mindful of all the rules that we've learned so far. So this is really one of the important rules as well that we've already had a look at. So let's carry on to the next verse now. Over here, we can see we have fatha on the meme, 1 second, 1 second again, stroke over here. Over here, this is vaw mad because it's a vaw sakin and the letter before has a dhamma. So we have to stretch our sounds out for 2 seconds. Then over here, we have noon mushaddad, which means we have to make the ghunna sound, which we have to hold for 2 seconds in our nose. Okay. After that, we have an alif mad, which means we have to again elongate our sound out for 2 seconds over here. So 2 second prolongation for here. 1 second on dhamma, okay, and then we have 1 second rule over here, 2 second rule for the alif mad, okay, alif, blank alif, letter before has a fatha. So we're stretching for 2 seconds over here. Over here, this is a lam sakin, and we have to join this to the most recent mutaharrik letter, which is this sheen over here. So this alif over here is removed in our recitation. Again, over here we have a ba sakin, which means we have to apply the rule of. So over here we have to apply the rule of qalqala over here as well. Okay, if you remember our letters that we have to be mindful of whenever they have a sukoon on them, we have to produce the qalqala sound and the bouncing sound. Okay, over here we have vaw mad, so 2 second elongation, and then we're ending the verse over here using the rule of pause. So if you follow along with me, a lot to remember in this verse, but inshallah, let's go through it bit by bit, and inshallah we'll get it. Okay, so from here it's يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث.
يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث.
Excellent. Well done, mashallah. You read that really, really nicely. Over here, just be careful. Because this is a ghunna sound, I need you to hold it in your nose for a bit longer than you did, okay? So I heard slightly you were trying to hold it, but 2 seconds at least, okay? Nun nasu.
Nun nasu.
Excellent. Much, much better. Well done. Excellent. Really happy with the way you're reading G2 181. Jazakumullah for your participation.
I had a question.
Yeah, go on.
I just wanted to tell you, I've memorized this surah. I've memorized Surah Al-Qa.
Suratul Qariya.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. MashaAllah. That's really, really good. And you should try and memorize as many surahs as possible. And this one is, not that short. It's a bit of a long one. So MashaAllah, that's really, really good that you've learned it. Well done.
And I think I've learned 24 or 23 or 24 surahs right now.
In total.
Yeah.
Okay, mashallah. That's really, really good. Really happy with it. Okay. Keep going, keep carrying on, and inshallah, one day you will get to memorize the whole Holy Quran, inshallah. Okay.
Allah Hafiz.
Inshallah. Allah Hafiz. Jazakumullah. Let's have another student on the mic, please.
G225.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. G2
225.
225. Jazakumullah. G2 225. Assalamu alaikum. G2 225. Can you hear me? Okay, G2 225. Are you able to hear me? Please accept the request to unmute. Okay, let's move on then with someone else, please.
G234.
G2 234.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Is that G2 234?
Yes,
Perfect. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. Jazakumullah for asking. So, are you understanding the rule of the day that we learned before this?
Yes.
Perfect. That's really good. So, we're going to start from this verse over here, okay, verse number 6. And I'd like you to recite Dawud and Tasmiyah for me first, please, nice and slowly with a nice melody.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Excellent. Well done. Really nicely read. So this verse over here, we're starting off with a letter with a fatha. So 1 second rule applies over here. 1 second stroke over here again. This is a vowel mud. So it means that we have to stretch our sound out for how many seconds?
2 seconds.
Excellent. Well done. So over here, we would join the noon to the lam sakin. We have 1 second stroke over here. We have a 2 second stroke, 2 second elongation over here because of the alif mud. It's an alif mud because the letter before has a fatha and this is a blank alif. So again, 2 second elongation. 1 second elongation. Over here, we would join the kaf to the lam. Okay. The noon will be joined to the lam over here. Over here, we have a noon sakin. So whenever we have a noon sakin, we have to always look at the next letter and see if it's a letter of the throat. So the next letter after noon sakin is the letter fa. Can you tell me, is the letter fa a letter of the throat?
No.
Excellent. Well done. So it's not a letter of the throat. So our sound will not be clear. So what we're going to do is we're going to produce a partial nasal sound over here, which when I say it, I want you to follow along with me later. Okay. So that was the rules that I'd like you to take care of when reciting this surah. So I'm going to read and I'd like you to repeat after me. وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْإِهْنِ الْمَنفُوشِ.
وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش.
Excellent. Well done. Really, really good. And this pronunciation of this was really, really nicely read as well. Excellent. Let's carry on. The next verse over here we're starting off with the fatha. So 1 second elongation. Over here we have a meme mushaddad. So again, a nasal, a ghunna sound will be produced over here where we hold the sound of the meme in our nose for 2 seconds before letting it go. And once we let go, we have to remember that this is an alif mad. Alif mad means it's a blank alif, letter before has a fatha. So our prolongation of the alif will be for 2 seconds. Okay. Then again, over here we have a noon sakin. So just like we did before, we have to look at the next letter. So what's the next letter after this noon sakin?
Tha.
Excellent. And is letter tha one of the letters of the throat?
No.
Excellent. Well done. So it's not a letter of the throat, which means again, we have to produce a nasal sound, which just like we did before over here. Okay. Carrying on over here, we have fatha, 1 second. Alif mad, 2 seconds. This is ya mad. Okay, we have a ya sakin, letter before has a kasra. So this is ya mad. How long would I pronounce that for?
2 seconds.
Excellent. Well done. So those are the rules that I'd like you to be careful of as we're reading. So this will be فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ.
وأما من ثقلت موازينه.
No.
No.
Yeah, so it's a h sound at the end. No.
No.
Excellent. Well done. And over here, just that noon sound, just prolong it for a slightly longer, okay? مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ.
من ثقلت.
Excellent. Really good attempt, mashallah. Really nicely read. And let's do one more verse. Over here, we have fatha, 1 second. Dhamma, 1 second. Fatha again, so 1 second. Over here, this is ya mad. Ya mad, because it's a ya sakin, letter before has a kasra. So 2 second elongation. Again, ya mad, so 2 second elongation. Now over here, I've highlighted this because this is according to the rule that we've just learned today on assimilation. Okay, it's assimilation because, or idgham, because we have a tanween underneath the ta, okay, tanween followed by a ra mushaddad. So what we have to do in our pronunciation, what will happen is that there will be no nasal sound produced. So we would take one stroke of the kasra and join it to the ra mushaddad. So we're going to say, and then of course we have an alif mad after that. So we're going to elongate at the end for 2 seconds. So we're going to say, tira. Can you say that?
Tira.
Well done. Excellent. So you heard that we didn't make a nasal sound. So if this ta with the kasratain was on its own, it would be thin. Yeah. But because now there's a ra mushaddad afterwards, there will be no nasal sound and we would only take one stroke or use one stroke of the kasratain in our pronunciation. So that's the rule that we've just covered in the rule of the day today as well. Afterwards, we have a kasra, so 1 second elongation. And then at the end, we have the rule of pausing, which we will apply as well. So this verse will be read as follows. فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ.
فهو في عيشة راضية.
Well done. This over here, this is fi.
في.
Excellent. And this sound over here, this is di.
ذي.
Excellent. Well, really thick and heavy sound. Okay, inshallah, this is one of our letters of the day. So we will cover it in just a bit. So once again, this verse, can you try again for me?
فهو في عيشة راضية.
Okay. Okay, well done. At the end, we're not going to pronounce this the. Okay, we're going to pronounce this as a ha sakin. Inshallah, you will learn more about this when we come to the lesson of looking at pausing rules and stopping rules. But for now, just know that at the end over here, when you join the ya to this, it will produce a ha sound at the end. Okay, and again, this is a thick and heavy sound. So the
ضية.
well done. And this over here, make sure to pronounce this for 2 seconds. Okay, فهو في
فهو في
عيشة راضية.
عيشة راضية.
ضية.
ضية.
Excellent. Well done. Difficult sounds to make, but mashallah, you're doing really, really well, and you're sounding all your sounds really nicely. Well done. Jazakumullah for your participation. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Okay. So we're now going to take a short break to look at our letters of the day. Okay, like I said in the beginning, we have 2 letters that we're covering today. So the first one is on your screens in front of you. The first letter is as follows. We would recite this as Sad. Sad. Okay, it's an elongation of 5 seconds on this letter when you're pronouncing it correctly. You can see that this letter, it has no dots on it. It's a simple letter with no dots on it. This letter, it can join onto the previous letter, and it can join onto the letter after it as well, as you can see over here. So it can, this is the letter, it can join onto the letter before and the letter after. In the beginning of the word, the letter Sad looks like this. You can see that the head or the first section of the Sad, the rounded bit, is taken. And then you have this pointy bit over here, and then it joins onto the letter after. In the middle of 2 letters, Sad looks like this. You can see there's a short line over here to connect it to the letter before. And then you have the main head of the letter, and then there is a short line after to join it to the next letter. Okay, and then at the end of the word, Sad looks like this. It takes its original shape, but you have this small line over here to join it to the previous letter. So this is the letter Sad. And like I said, if someone says to you what's the correct way of pronouncing this letter, then you would stretch your sound out for 5 seconds. The way to pronounce this letter is formed in the same place as seen, but the top of the tongue is raised to the roof of the mouth to make it thick and heavy. Okay, so the correct way to pronounce this letter is by taking your tongue and raising it to the roof of your mouth. So you make that thick and heavy sound. That's the letter. Let's have a look at the next letter now. The next letter is, the sister, you can say, of the first letter, because it looks very much similar, but there's one small difference, is that this letter has a dot on it, and it has 1 dot that is placed on top of the letter. Okay, and the correct way to pronounce this letter is as follows. Dad. Dad. Okay, make sure you're all trying to pronounce that along with me. Okay, the correct way to pronounce this letter is as follows. You take the entire side of your tongue, okay, and you touch the base of molars, left or right or both. Okay, so you take your tongue and you touch it to your back teeth, or to the left or to the right of your teeth, and that will make that thick and heavy sound. Okay, so this is the letter. It has 1 dot on it, and just like Sad, it can join onto the letter before it and to the letter after it. It holds the same shape as Sad, but the only difference is with the dot. Okay, so it still looks the same. The head of the letter is taken. It can join onto the letter after, as you can see by the small line, but the dot is on top always. So that's the difference between Sad and Dad. And with Dad, it's important that you don't confuse it with the letter Dal. Okay, so Dal is separate. That's a different letter. You can see slightly, you can see it over here. Let me just show you if I can scroll down over here. Yeah, it's right at the bottom over here, Dal. But the sounds can be slightly similar, but Dad is a really thick and heavy sound, so it's very much different to Dal. But sometimes it can be a bit confusing because they sound slightly similar. So those were the two letters of the day that we'd like you to be mindful of. So we're going to go back to our recitation of the Holy Quran and of the Surah Al-Qari'ah. So let's have another student on the mic.
G2 235.
Jazakumullah. G2 235. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. Jazakumullah for asking. So, how did you understand the rule of the day today?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. That's really good. Do you remember what we learnt? What was the name of the rule? Yeah, do you remember in English it starts with A? Assimilation. Yeah?
Assimilation.
Yes, and in Arabic it's called idgham.
At-Takallum.
Yeah, well done. So assimilation or idgham is what we learned today. And we just practiced that in our previous verse as well. We saw how it came up. We had a tanween underneath a letter and followed by a ra mushaddad, and we learned that there will be no nasal sound produced in our recitation. So that was the rule that we just looked at today. We're going to carry on to the next verse now. In this verse, first, before actually, we'll start with Ta'awudh and Tasmiyah. So could you read that for me nice and slowly with a nice melody?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Good, well done. So over here, this verse, the first thing is this fatha over here. Fatha produces a sound of 1 second, so we have to give it that much timing. Then we have a mim mushaddad over here. As we saw before as well, over here you saw it as well, that mim mushaddad means we have to produce a ghunna sound, which we have to hold for 2 seconds. So after that, we also have an alif mad. Alif mad also produces a sound of 2 seconds, elongation. After this, we have a noon sakin. And every time we see a noon sakin, we have to look at the next letter to see what kind of sound we have to make. So after this noon sakin, we have the letter kha. Now, can you tell me, is the letter kha one of the letters of the throat?
Yes.
Excellent, well done. So yes, the letter kha is one of the letters of the throat. So that means we have to produce a clear sound when we join the meme to the noon. So we're going to say man. Okay, it's going to be a clear sound with no stretched nasal sound. After that, we also have a fatha over here. We have alif mad over here, so 2 second elongation. We have ya mad over here, so again 2 second elongation. So these are things we have to be careful of whilst reciting. So let's start. We're going to say وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ.
خفت موازينه.
Excellent, well done. But over here, remember, this is mim mushaddad. So we have to produce a ghunna sound, like I said, okay? So we're going to say وَأَمَّا Yeah. So before letting it go to produce the madda sound, we have to produce the gunna sound in our nose for 2 seconds. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ. Excellent. Well done, mashallah. Really nicely read. Let's carry on to the next verse. We have fatha, so 1 second rule. Dhamma, so 1 second rule. Okay, so it's slightly unclear, but this is dhamma. Over here we have a inverted dhamma. Okay, inverted dhamma. How many seconds should I give this?
2 seconds.
2 seconds. Well done. Now, just before that, we also have a meme mushaddad. So just like we did over here, we have to give this one 2 second gunna sound as well. Okay, so just like we did before. So 2 second gunna sound over here as well. Over here, we have alif mad. So how many seconds over here?
2.
Okay, I can't hear you properly. Can you say that again?
2.
2, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. 2 second sound over here. Excellent. Over here we have kasra, so 1 second sound over here. So those are things I need you to be careful of when reciting. So this is going to be as follows. فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. Yeah, can you just end the sound? Your voice cut off a little bit. Yeah, well done. Excellent. Well done. Over here, I want you to spend a bit more longer on the gunna sound. So try again. فَأُمُّهُ. A bit longer, okay? فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. Excellent. Well done. Really, really good, okay? So just look out for that gunna sound, otherwise well done. Let's carry on. Over here, we have 1 second stretching. Over here, we have alif mad. On top of that, we have a sign, which means we have to stretch that for at least 3 seconds. Okay, so nice deep breath before you say that. Over here, we have vertical fatha. Vertical fatha needs how much time, please? Can you tell me?
2 seconds.
2 seconds. Well done. This is the letter taf. It has a fatha on it. So 1 second. Alif mad, 2 seconds. Kasra, 1 second. And over here we will end as we see it. Okay. So we're going to say وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا هِيَهْ. Good, well done. But this one over here requires a bit more stretching. Okay, so really, really nice deep breath, at least 3 seconds. Okay, so 3 seconds is a long time, so you have to really stretch it. Okay, and over here, remember, this is dal sakin, so we have to remember the rule of qalqala, and we have to produce a slight bouncing sound. Okay, ad. Well done. So from the beginning, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا هِيَهْ. Excellent, well done. So your sound is cutting off slightly and it's quite distant, but I think I heard that correctly, and mashallah, you read really nicely. Okay, just remember that really long stretch over here, but mashallah, well done, really nicely read. Let's carry on to the last verse of this surah. Over here we have alif mad. Okay, and then after that we have a dammatain on top of the ra. Okay, dammatain. Excuse me. So dammatain, we have a double stroke of dhamma over here. Okay, now whenever we see a tanween, we also have to look at the next letter and see if it's a letter of the throat. So can you tell me the next letter, ha, is it one of the letters of the throat?
Yes.
Excellent, well done. So because it's a letter of the throat, we have to produce a clear sound. We don't produce that stretched nasal sound. So we have to be careful of that. Alif mad, stretching it for 2 seconds. Kasra, 1 second. Fatha, 1 second. Okay, so the last verse is going to be read. Narun hamiyah.
Narun hamiyah.
Excellent. Well done, mashallah. Really, really nicely read. And mashallah, you knew your rules as well, which is a really good sign that you've been revising and having a look at all the rules that we've learned previously, which is a really, really good thing. Okay, keep it up. Jazakumullah for your participation. Jazakumullah. Jazakallah Hafiz. So that concludes the surah, but what we still have a few more minutes. So what we're going to do is we are going to start again from the beginning of the surah, and we're going to have a few more students on the mic. So if you can have another student, please.
G2 182.
Jazakumullah. G2 182. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. So can you start with Tawad and Tasmiyah for me, nice and slowly?
Okay. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim.
Excellent, well done. So we're going to start from the beginning. So over here, remember this is alif mad, so we have to give this 2-second elongation. Okay, so repeat after me. Al-Qari'ah.
Al-Qari'ah.
Excellent, well done. Carrying on, over here we have lam sakin, which joins onto this meme over here. Then we have alif mad, because it's a blank alif and the letter before has a fatha. This is kasra, so 1 second elongation over here. So this is going to be mal-qari'ah.
Mal-Qari'ah.
Okay, good, well done. Just remember over here at the end, just imagine that it's a ha with a sukoon on top of it. Okay, so that's how we're going to recite it. We're going to say ah. Yes, well done. Mal-Qari'ah.
Mal-Qari'ah.
Well done, excellent. So after this we have fatha over here. This is a alif mad and it has another sign on top, which means that we have to stretch for at least 3 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds. So really long stretch over here. Vertical fatha, meaning 2-second elongation, 1 second timing. Over here, we joining the meme to the lam sakin over here. Alif mad, so 2-second elongation. Kasra, 1 second elongation. And then we're ending the verse with the same sound as we did in the previous verse before. Okay. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ.
وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ.
Excellent, well done, really good attempt. Over here, slightly, I think got a bit confused over here. Remember, whenever you see a sakin letter, so in this case, it's a lam sakin, you have to join it to the most recent mutaharrik letter, which means the most recent letter with a stroke on it. Can you tell me which is the most recent mutaharrik letter before the lam?
Alif.
Okay, this alif, does it have a sign on it?
No.
No. And the alif before this, does it have a sign on it?
No, I think it's meme.
Yes, well done. So both of these alifs, they don't have a sign on them, so they're not a mutaharrik letter. So the most recent mutaharrik letter before the lam is this meme because it has a fatha on it. So that means that when you see the meme, you are not producing the sound of the mud, the alif mad over here, you're straight away joining the meme to the lam. So don't have that
Okay.
gap in the middle. Okay, so one more time.
Okay.
Remember, this is dal sakin as well, so produce a jerk sound or a bouncing sound because of the qalqala rule. Okay, but you did that really well before you read anyway, so you're good. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِئَةُ.
وما أدراك ما القارعة.
Good, well done. This one, ما القارئة.
ما القارعة.
Good, well done. So just like I said, in your recitation, I know it can be a bit confusing seeing this meme with a fatha followed by a blank alif. You automatically think that it's an alif mud, but you have to look ahead, okay? Look ahead, see, are there any more letters that I can join this meme with? And yes, there is a lam sakin that's waiting for you to join it to the meme. So remember, don't pronounce the alif mud over here. This is not an alif mud. So straight away joining the meme to the lam, ignoring these two letters in between. So, mal qari'ah.
ما القارعة.
Excellent, well done. And also remember, this needs a stretch of at least 3 seconds. So count it on your fingers as you're reading it. So making sure that you're reading it for 3 seconds at least. Okay, well done, mashallah. Really, really nicely read, G2 182. Just keep practicing, okay?
جزاك الله.
Jazakumullah. Well done. Okay, so just going to set you your homework now before we end with the dua. Your homework is to practice Suratul Qari'ah, and that's verses 1 to 12. And I would like you to make sure that you're applying all the rules that you know in your recitation, okay? And also be mindful of today's rule, which was the rule of assimilation and idgham. So the rule was that whenever you see a tanween, okay, you and the letter after it is ra mushaddad or la mushaddad, then there is no nasal sound and you read the tanween as a single stroke. Okay, now today's rule was one of the rules of noon sakin and tanween, so of assimilation and idgham. So one rule you learned on Monday, you learned about when you have noon sakin, the letters after, you have to look at that. Just like that today you learned as well, whenever you see a tanween, you have to look at the next letter. So these are all connected, so make sure that you're revisiting all the rules that you're learning previously as well, so that you're kept up to date and you're not confused with the rules that we're learning. Okay, so that's your homework. Practice Suratul Qari'ah, remembering all the rules that you've learnt so far and apply them in your recitation. Okay, so we are now going to end the class with a dua. If you could please have a student on the mic.
G2 145.
Jazakumullah. G2 145. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. How did you find the lesson? Were you able to understand the rule of the day?
Yes.
That's great to hear. Okay.
And I read the dua in the namaz.
Which dua?
The end one.
The end one or the Suratul Qari'ah?
No, the closing dua.
Oh, cha. Okay, that's really, really good. Okay, perfect. So then you can help me to read this today as well. Okay, so I'd like you to recite after me, or would you like to read on your own?
Read it by my own.
Okay, but first read Tawud and Tasmiyah nice and slowly and clearly, okay?
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم ارحمني بالقرآن العظيم
Good, well done. Okay, just before we go on to the translation, I just want to correct some things over here. Over here, remember that we're stretching the la for 2 seconds because of this vertical fatha that you see on the side, okay? So this is going to be, repeat after me. Allahumma arhamni.
Allahumma arhamni
Bil-Qur'anil azim.
Bil-Qur'an al-Azim.
Excellent, well done. Just be careful of that in the beginning, okay? Stretching that for 2 seconds, the Allah, okay? And can you read the translation for me?
O Allah, have mercy on me to the Quran the right.
Excellent, well done, really nicely read. Jazakumullah for your participation, and Jazakumullah to everybody for reading so well today, and inshallah make sure that you do your homework, and we'll see you all again same time tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.